Beloved, listen closely. There comes a time when the floodwaters rise, when all the old foundations are shaken, when what we once clung to is swept away in the currents of crisis. But hear me now. When the flood comes, it does not come to destroy you, but to reveal you. It is written that when the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord shall lift up a standard against him. There is a standard rising in you. There is a purpose that the flood cannot drown. There is a calling that the storm cannot wash away. This is a prophetic alert. Open your ears and your spirit. What is rising from the flood is greater than what was washed away. When the flood comes, it does not politely knock at your door. It crashes in, sweeping away what you thought was secure, what you thought would stand forever. And yet, within this overwhelming surge is a divine revelation. The flood exposes what is rooted and what is not. It strips away the illusions, the pretense, the shallow things we built our hopes on. So many of us cling to surface level security, our jobs, our relationships, our reputations, believing they are strong enough to endure every storm. But when the waters rise, the weak foundations crumble, and the roots that run deep are revealed. This is not punishment, it is mercy. Because sometimes you don't know how fragile your ground is until it shakes beneath your feet. Sometimes you don't know what you truly believe until you're forced to stand on that belief when everything else is washed away. And sometimes you don't see the shallowness of your trust in God until the flood comes for the things you trusted more than Him. Think of a mighty oak tree beside a river. The storms come, the river overflows, the floodwaters rush in, the grass is gone, the flowers are swept away, but the oak stands firm. Why? Because its roots dig deep beneath the surface, anchored in a hidden strength no storm can reach. The flood only reveals what has always been true. What is shallow is swept away. What is rooted remains. I remember a woman who built her life around a job that made her feel valuable. She was respected, praised, needed. And she clung to that identity like a lifeline. But when the company closed overnight, it was as if a flood had ripped through her soul. For weeks, she felt like she was drowning in loss and fear. But in that place of deep emptiness, she heard a whisper. Your value is not in what you do. It is in who you are to me. The flood had exposed a shallow root. And in that raw place, she chose to dig her faith deeper. She came to know a security no paycheck could ever provide. The flood revealed the weak foundation, but it also revealed the solid rock underneath. Beloved, the flood will test you, but it will also teach you. It will rip up the roots that will never hold you so that you can plant your life where it will never be shaken. When you see the waters rising, do not despair. Ask the Lord, what is being exposed? Where must I dig deeper? This shaking is not to break you, but to awaken you, because when the storms are over and the sun returns, you will stand, not on the sand of this world, but on the unshakable rock of His truth. Let the flood come. Let it wash away what cannot last. What remains will be stronger than the storm. And when the waters recede, you will see that what is rooted in Him will never be moved. When the flood comes, it does not just reveal what is rooted, it washes away what does not belong. It is fierce and relentless, not because God wants to harm you, but because He loves you too much to let you stay buried under debris that was never meant to cling to you. The flood is His mercy in motion, cleansing you of the things that weigh you down, the fears that bind you, the habits that choke your growth. Sometimes we hold so tightly to what we think we need, the old bitterness, the toxic relationship, the familiar compromise. But when the flood comes, it tears those things from our grip. And though it feels like loss, it is actually freedom. It is like a field that has been choked by weeds for years. The rain comes, and the flood sweeps through, uprooting the weeds clearing away the dead things that steal the soil's strength. What remains is fresh, fertile ground, ready for new seeds to grow. Without the cleansing, there could be no harvest. This is why you must not curse the flood, because it is doing for you what you could not do for yourself. I remember a man who struggled with a secret addiction for decades. He kept it hidden beneath layers of good deeds and busyness, hoping that if he stayed distracted enough, the rot would never be exposed. But one day a flood came. He lost his job, his marriage fell apart, his reputation shattered, and the sin he had buried for so long came rising to the surface. He felt humiliated, destroyed, like his life had ended. But in that brokenness, he fell on his face before God for the first time in years, truly honest, truly surrendered. The flood had not come to destroy him, but to wash him clean. What he thought was the worst thing that could happen to him became the beginning of real freedom. The chains were gone, the secrets exposed, the shame washed away. And when the waters receded, he stood new, a testimony that sometimes grace looks like a flood that rips through your false security. Beloved, you may feel like you are losing everything, but you are not losing what you need. You are losing what was poisoning you. Let the waters do their work. Trust the cleansing. It may hurt, but it is holy. The things you lose in the flood were never your strength anyway. The flood is God's way of saying, there is more I have for you, but I must make room first. So do not mourn what the waters carry away. Do not cling to the old debris that keeps washing up at your feet. Let it go. Lift your eyes to the one who's making you new. The flood is not your grave. It is your cleansing. And when the sun breaks through the storm, you will stand lighter, freer, and ready for the new things God will plant in your life. What is rising from the flood is not just you, but a you that is clean, whole, and made ready for glory. When the flood comes, it does not only expose the roots and wash away what must go, it awakens what was buried deep within you, the seeds God planted long ago that you may have forgotten, ignored, or believed would never grow. The flood does not just tear down, it stirs up. It moves through the hidden places of your heart and shakes loose the dormant dreams, the callings you thought were dead, the gifts you once believed were lost forever. You see, sometimes life buries our purpose under layers of disappointment, fear, and distraction. We get so busy surviving that we stop nurturing the seeds of our destiny. But the flood, that fierce mercy, comes to awaken those seeds, to saturate the dry soil of your soul and force new life to break through. What felt like ruin is really revival. Think about it. After a river floods a barren desert, what happens? In time, flowers bloom where no one thought life could grow. Seeds that lay hidden for years suddenly burst forth because the waters awakened them. It is the same with you. The storm that looks like it came to drown you is actually watering the ground of your calling. I remember a young man who dreamed as a boy of serving others. He wanted to build shelters for the homeless, to feed the hungry, to be a voice for those who had none. But as life went on, the world told him to be realistic, to get a stable job, to quiet that fire in his heart. He did, and for years he lived a safe life, but a dry one. Then came the flood. He lost his job unexpectedly, was forced to leave the city, and found himself back in his small hometown, feeling like a failure. But in that quiet place of brokenness, as the flood waters of change washed over his plans, that buried dream began to stir again. He volunteered at a local food bank just to pass the time, and something sparked. Soon he was leading community projects, gathering resources, opening doors for people with nowhere to go. The dream that had been buried under the busyness and expectations of this world rose from the flood. What seemed like loss became life. Beloved, what dreams have you buried? What gifts have you hidden away because someone told you they were foolish, impossible, or not good enough? The flood is coming to stir them back to life. This shaking is not for your destruction, but for your awakening. You have gifts this world needs. Seeds planted by God himself that only the flood can awaken. Let the waters do their work. Let them saturate your dry places. Do not fear the flood. Do not mourn the shaking. When the debris is washed away, you will see green sheets breaking through the soil of your soul. Purpose will rise where there was once only pain. Hope will bloom where fear once ruled. The flood is not just cleansing you, it is calling you. And what is rising from the flood is the harvest of dreams you thought were lost, but were only waiting for this moment to grow. When the flood comes, it not only exposes what is rooted, washes away what must be removed, and awakens the seeds buried deep within you. It also lifts you higher than you ever imagined you could go. The very waters that threaten to drown you will become the force that elevates you to places you could never reach on your own. The flood is not just a test or a cleansing, it is a vehicle of divine elevation. It is so easy to see the storm as your enemy. It feels like it comes to destroy your plans, your comfort, your sense of control. But in the hands of God, even the floodwaters that rage around you must serve his purpose. Remember Noah. The same flood that brought judgment to the earth lifted the ark above the destruction. Noah and his family were not buried under the waters. They were carried by them. The flood did not bury them. It brought them to a mountain they could never have climbed without it. That is what the flood does for you. It carries you to higher ground. It forces you to rise above what once kept you bound to the low places. It breaks your ties to things that once seemed so necessary, but were holding you back from greater things. It is in the storm that you discover you were made to soar, not sink. I think of a woman who spent years working at a job that drained her soul, but paid her bills. She felt stuck, small, like she was meant for more, but too afraid to let go of her security. Then the flood came. Her company closed suddenly, and her sense of identity was swept away overnight. She felt terrified, lost at sea. But as she cried out to God, something unexpected happened. New opportunities opened, doors she never had the courage to knock on before. She started the business she had always dreamed of, but never believed she could do. The fear that once chained her was drowned in the flood. The woman who once hid behind someone else's vision was now walking in her own calling. She discovered that what the flood took was nothing compared to where the flood carried her. Beloved, the storm will come, the waters will rise, but remember this: you are not at the mercy of the flood. The flood is at the mercy of your God. What looks like it will bury you is the very thing that will lift you higher. You may feel the waters rising around your feet right now, the uncertainty, the chaos, but don't panic. Don't let fear pull you under. Anchor yourself to the promise. When the enemy comes in like a flood, the Spirit of the Lord will lift up a standard against him. That standard is you, rising above the waves, carried by grace to a new mountain, a new vision, a new authority. So let the waters come. Let them lift you out of the low places you settled for. When the flood recedes, you will look around and realize you are standing in a place you could never have reached in your own strength. What is rising from the flood is not just your survival. It is your elevation. You are going higher. When the flood comes, when it exposes what's rooted, washes away what must go, awakens your buried seeds and lifts you higher, it does not stop with you alone. The flood releases a people, a generation, a remnant, who rise from the waters different than they were before. They do not come out beaten down and broken. They emerge with a fire in their bones, a testimony on their lips, and an authority the enemy cannot steal. The flood gives birth to a prophetic generation, a people who have seen the storm, survived the shaking, and now stand ready to build what no storm can destroy. This is the final truth hidden in the flood. What rises is not just your personal breakthrough. It is your calling to be a light in a world drowning in darkness. You become a standard God lifts up against the flood of the enemy's lies and fear. You are not just carried to safety for yourself. You are set apart to carry others to higher ground. Your survival becomes a signal to the world that there is hope, that the God who carries you through the storm will carry them too. You're good. There is a young man I know who was addicted to drugs for years, bound by darkness, drowning in hopelessness. Then came the flood. He lost everything. His friends abandoned him. His family had enough, and he ended up alone in a rehab center, feeling like he had no future. But in that place of total loss, something rose inside him. He encountered the God he'd run from all his life. His chains broke in the middle of that storm. When he came out of that flood, he didn't just come out clean. He came out carrying a message. Now, years later, he leads a ministry for addicts. He walks into the darkest streets, looks broken people in the eye and says, there's hope. I was you, and look at me now. If God did it for me, he can do it for you. That is what it means to be a prophetic generation, to come out of the flood, not empty-handed, but carrying freedom for others. Beloved, you may feel like you're barely keeping your head above water, but know this. The same waters that tested you are forging you into a voice for this hour. You are the one who will stand on new ground and declare, the storm did not drown me. It delivered me. You are the one who will look others in the eye and say, come with me. There is higher ground. There is hope. There is a rock that no flood can wash away. So do not waste your flood. Do not waste your storm. Let it make you strong. Let it make you bold. Let it make you dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. When the waters recede, you will not just stand, you will lead. You will speak. You will build. And the world will see that what rose from the flood was not just a survivor, but a standard, a sign, a living testimony that God still saves, still restores, and still lifts his people higher than the storm. You are that generation. Rise. So, beloved, lift your eyes. The waters may rage around you, but look deeper. There is something rising within you. The flood cannot stop what God has begun. The storm that was meant to break you will make you unbreakable. Stand firm. Declare the promise. Let the flood carry away the old. For when the waters recede, you will stand on the mountain of promise. A testimony to the world that what is rising from the flood is a new thing, a holy thing, a kingdom thing. Stay awake. Stay anchored. The flood is not your end, it is your elevation. And what is rising from the flood is you. Amen.